I'm stoked to be joined this week by arguably the best content creator in the accounting space, Lukas Sundahl, CMA, and we're going to chat about a bunch of things today. I'm super excited. So thank you, Lukas, for being here with me.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to this.
Okay, so, starting out, my favorite question is why accounting? How'd you get here? So you want to give us a little career journey that we can go down with you and understand how you got to where you're at today?
Yeah, that sounds good. So my path is unique in the fact that I originally went to college and earned a kinesiology degree, which is the scientific study of human movement. And with that, some people go on to like dental school, physical therapy, but for me, I wanted to go into personal training. And so I did that for a few years at a couple different gyms, and then I worked for a company that had in-home training. So you would either go to like the client's house, or if they had like a country club or a different place, go through their workout there, and that was fun. And in that meantime, I was looking for. My friend gave me a suggestion like, "Hey, you should check out this job at American Century. It's part time. You can still do training." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was looking for like a little extra income as I was building up clients. And once I got into the company, it was an investment firm, and I learned a lot about like finance and accounting. And I found it very interesting. So I was like, okay, like this is pretty cool. So then I did that for a little while longer, and then I was like, okay, I should go back to school. So I went to grad school, got an MBA in finance, and I was like, all right, I'm excited to have my MBA now. I'm going to go apply to jobs in accounting and finance. And all of them were like, "Oh yes, do you have a degree, a bachelor's degree in accounting or finance?" And I was like, "I do not." And so I met that stipulation for a few months, and I was like, "Okay, this is ridiculous." So then I decided, okay, I'll go back and get an additional degree. So I went to Baker University for both my MBA and then for my second bachelor's degree in accounting. And then once I had that degree, I got into a couple different companies, worked for a public accounting firm briefly, and got some experience and exposure to tax. It was a great firm. I still have a lot of friends there, but ultimately I realized it's not what I wanted to do long term. So from there, I got a job at an oil and gas company, worked there for a little while. There's a market downturn. So then I jumped over to an accounting for, a company that did accounting for a manufacturing company. So I got to work for a manufacturing company in the aerospace industry, which was super cool. So they're making all these components for planes, Boeing, Gulfstream, all different things. And then from there, I just continued to progress, getting more experience, moving into like roles like accounting manager, controller, and ultimately now I'm working as a fractional CFO for a firm called Backbone CFO. So I've had an awesome journey so far. I'm excited for the future, but it's definitely unique in the fact that I was a personal trainer, and I always joke that I went from physical fitness to physical fitness.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. So, and that's crazy that you went from an MBA and had to go back and get a bachelor's. It's like opposite, right? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm assuming you did personal training that whole time while you were studying again?
Yeah, so I had that job with the investment firm. And then, yes, I did. So I still did some personal training. I had some awesome clients I worked with through that whole time. So that was, yeah. So I still got to do that, which I enjoyed. And, uh, and then I'll do that in addition to like going back to school.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. That's so crazy. So you went through all of that and then now you create all this accounting content, right? You have super funny accounting t-shirts and merch, and you also, produce TikToks and short form videos and memes that you post on LinkedIn and all these other places. How did that start? And, what's kind of your reasoning behind that, right? Like you see a lot of accounting professionals who post, you know, about how they started at their firm or the stuff they're doing in their VCFO job or, and you do a
Yeah.
little of that too, but where did the kind of the funny and the fun side of the accounting stuff kind of start?
Yeah. So for me, it started when I was younger, like when I was a kid. We used to watch Saturday Night Live, and I always enjoyed the skit comedy things and whatnot. And then once I got into high school, I was in addition to sports, I did like choir and different things like that. And one of the things at the end of every year, there was a thing called the variety show. And basically, it allowed people that were in the like band and choir to show off their skills. So for a lot of people, they did like obviously there's like singing numbers, but then there's people like that did piano numbers, soloists, different things like that. But my friends and I, we created our own skits. So throughout the 4 years of high school, we did different skits, like SNL style, different all sorts of different kind of dance things and whatnot. And so basically, what I do now is just a continuation of that. That's my personality. I like to have fun, entertain people, that kind of thing. So as I was starting to, like a couple of years ago with COVID, I came across, I'd heard about it for a while, and it was like all these TikToks, and with downtime being home and not having to commute anywhere, I would watch those like in the evenings and like once the kids went to bed. And I was like, there's got to be a way to like get going into this space, and I kind of mulled around on that for a while, and then ultimately one day about like 2021, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video. Like, if it's great, whatever, it doesn't matter. It was super grainy. I posted it. I didn't know anything better. So, just as a continuation, I wanted to do something to kind of promote accounting. At the same time, I created like a couple T-shirts that I was wanting to sell, and I was like, oh, I can wear these T-shirts in the video. And so it was a kind of a creative outlet to make the T-shirt designs and whatnot. And so for the first year, I'm actually probably about a year. If you watch my old videos, my T-shirts are backwards. So I was trying to figure out a way to invert the image, but in TikTok, there's only certain things you can do with like the effects. You have to, if you use the green screen, you can flip the image, and all that to say, it took a lot of time, but now I've ironed down the process. I use multiple applications to flip the image so the t-shirts read correctly. I can add music and different things like that. So basically what I want to do is to post content, and there's a lot of great creators out there, like you mentioned. They have awesome insight. Some of them have incredible, like how to build Excel dashboards and different things. And I'm like, I just wanted to be different and showcase like accounting is fun. I'm having fun with what I do. There's still some things I post, like just kind of general, like what does a fractional controller, fractional CFO do? But a lot of it, I just want to show like the fun side of accounting, because you hear so many times people talk about, oh, accounting is boring, or you read like in the Reddit threads, people that are like at public accounting firms and they're working 80 hours a week. And yes, that's true for some people, but that's not the whole gamut of accounting. There's so many different fields and paths. And so ultimately, I want to show like, hey, accounting can be fun. You can do dances and do all sorts of different stuff, like with your office mates. There's people I've found on the platforms that have fun coworkers and stuff. So I wanted to showcase that, like, hey, you don't just sit at the computer all day. You have people you interact with. Even if you're working remote, you still have fun way to reach out to clients, coworkers, that kind of thing.
I am so grateful that there are people like you, and especially you, who are doing this for accounting, because there's just not enough of it, right? And I worry that, students also get this idea that they see accounting theory in the classroom and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like this is so complicated. This is so hard. Like I'm never going to be able to do this long term." And then they get to a public accounting firm and it's 80-hour weeks and it's boom 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 and it's like, "I can't do this." And they leave the profession, or they immediately, tell all the students that they're still friends with at school, like, "Oh, don't do this. It sucks." When there's people like you who are showcasing, just how flexible and amazing accounting can be. Even just in my internship is 100% remote, right? And that allows me amazing flexibility that a lot of people in regular jobs don't even have. So I love that you're promoting and showing that, and it's so fun. On the content creation side, so I love content creation, and I think more students should be getting involved with it early because I think it makes a big difference. Do you have any tips for students who want to start creating content, and like what does your tech stack look like? So do you have any like AI apps or stuff that helps you edit and cut clips? Cuz my favorite part of your content is all of the movie and TV show clips that you pull into your videos. It's so funny, but I can't imagine that that's easy to do. Like that takes a long time to edit and put all of those together, even though it's a 15-20 second video.
Yeah, so basically it's just been an iterative process the whole time. But a lot of what I do is done, like actually, I would say pretty much everything I do is done via my iPhone. So I use,
Really?
yeah, so I
That's
use
amazing.
a lot of times, like when my video, I'll use Snapchat just to use their green screen effect because they have all these different lenses that add the backgrounds, or you could just add a picture behind you. And then that's how I do a lot of things. And then I'll bring it into TikTok, and then from there you can add the captions, the music, and so that's been a huge thing. So I feel like Snapchat, even though like I'll create the video, download it, and then just delete it, I don't post it to Snapchat. And then for TikTok, I'll have all the things in there. I'll use all the different text features. And one thing that was a game changer for me, like a couple years ago, is like I was trying to add background music, and then I had my audio. And I'm like, why? This is crazy. Like I wanted it to be my voice and louder, and then the audio lower. And I finally found on YouTube like how to do it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So once I figured out how to like invert image so my stuff read properly and how to adjust the volume, that was like a game changer for me in the thing. So, and also with Snapchat, like I'll download the videos. Some of the editing I do just on the iPhone feature, like you can flip the image, you can change some coloration on there, and then upload it to TikTok. So I don't have any crazy tech stack. It's all done on my phone. And then the other one, like that for the movies and TV show clips, there's an app called CapCut, and I've barely scratched the surface on what it's capable of. But you can pull in TV shows, clips. You can scan through there. They have a feed just like Instagram, TikTok, other places, and you can scroll through and find content that you find funny and like, oh, how could I tie this into accounting or Excel, and then just go from there. And I tweak it, add some text, and then upload it. And then I use a thing called Snaptick, which once I post on TikTok, I'll use that app to remove the watermark, and then I post it to Instagram and LinkedIn.
So you have
And
it
then
all streamlined.
yes, but it's been over time. Like so, like the first few videos I made took a long time, even though they were super short. But now I have like a Excel spreadsheet for like some like if I let's say like an accounting joke, I have a spreadsheet of that information. I'll open the app, find a joke I like, and then I'll just record. And it takes just a few minutes to do all that. So like once you have the setup and kind of like know what you want to do, it becomes much easier to uh, make a video and not take that much time in doing so.
So like what's the longest amount of time you spend now, like actually from recording the video to getting it posted to all of the platforms?
Oh, so I think I could do like a video to all the platforms, especially if it's like a shorter video, in like 10 to 15 minutes. If it's a longer video, it may take a little longer just because of like trying to edit it. If I do multiple clips, that's the thing too, like with TikTok that I found, is you can make multiple clips, upload them, and then if you use your fingers, you could zoom in, and it helps you like if you want to cut off at a certain point in time, you could actually use your fingers to zoom in on a certain point of the video, so your cutoffs in between are much cleaner. So there's things like even within these apps that allow you to edit and look like a pro, but I'm not a pro at all.
And I was sitting here thinking you're using like Adobe Photoshop and all this,
Yeah,
fancy hardware, but you're doing it on your phone. That's
and
amazing.
so that's what I wanted to kind of talk with, like you mentioned earlier, like how do accounting students get started. Just open up your phone. You don't have to have any crazy applications, even if your videos are grainy when you first start, or like your images on your shirts are backwards or whatever. Just start, and then as you go and you make more content, you'll get more confidence in yourself, and you'll figure out, oh, like when you're in the app one day, you're like, oh, it does this. I didn't realize I could do that on my video, and you just continue to make videos. You maybe come across another creator and see something they did and find out how to do it yourself. So the biggest thing is, I just say, just get like just post something. It could be just a like, hey, this is my day. I'm getting ready to go to my first intro to this like modeling class, statistics or whatever it is. I got my morning coffee, going to class. Just post that because people are interested to see like, yeah, you could show what you do like on the job itself or Excel, but sometimes people just like to see like, hey, what's it like being an accounting student at your university? Like, you get your coffee in the morning, go to class, study in the afternoon, that kind of thing. So even videos like that are, it's people like to see into the lives of other like students or professionals.
Very cool. And yeah, I just think in the day and age that we live in, it's just so valuable to be having content out there and consistently putting it out there, even if it's not the best content or performing the best, it at least brings validation to you and builds a personal brand. And that kind of segues into the next question I had for you is, how do you feel like making these videos and creating this content has helped you develop a brand? And has that helped you in your career and finding new jobs or in different other opportunities in your life?
Yes, so it has helped with the jobs for sure. There's actually been a couple of jobs that I've gotten recently, and people knew me through like what I've shared on LinkedIn and came across my profile. And so having that consistent posting allows people to like kind of see you, and even without like actually meeting you in person, kind of get to know like who you are, that type of thing. And then back in May, I went to the CFO Accelerator Live. It was a conference for people in the fractional CFO space. And I'm walking up to people and they're like, "Hey, it's Lucas." And like, so I had this, even without, I had never met them in person yet, but they like had seen some of my content. And so it just makes that conversation that much easier. So instead of like approaching yourself like in some networking events where you don't know anybody, you walk up, "Hey, I'm Lucas," blah blah blah. Like people, even if you don't post like humorous content, just be like, "Oh, hey, there's Lucas. Yeah, I like your video. That was awesome. Thanks for that Excel tip. I used that at the office the other day." So creating the content allows people to kind of learn about you, even if they haven't met you in person, and it just makes that first conversation so much easier. Like with your on a job interview or just like a networking event, it's so much easier to like begin a conversation where they kind of feel like they know you a little bit.
Yeah, I that's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. Like, I'm just starting on this content creation journey and being active on LinkedIn and trying to get to some of the other platforms. But it's just, it's amazing how even having that as a conversation starter just like opens up so many doors when you're at networking events and stuff too, right? Or like I'll share my LinkedIn profile with people and they're like, "Oh, you're a podcast host. Like, so what is your podcast about? What do you do?" All that stuff. It just, it opens up so many doors that wouldn't be there otherwise. I love that. So I want to talk a little bit about your shirts and your merchandise because I think it's not only is it funny, I think it's so cool. Did you just start doing that to add with the content, or like has that actually been like a legit business that you've been selling a large number of shirts?
Yeah, so I originally started off when I started making my content. I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to like have some shirts I could sell, and I did that through. I saw my website. I think it's pretty decent. Like it's accountingcouture.com. It's done by Wix, so I'm again no IT professional. And then I had posted on there like a store like um, to make t-shirts and stuff. I had like a few designs I created. I had a local company that could print them for me, and so I printed a few. And I was like, I mean, it's hard to drive people to a website like my own. Some people would come through their like organic traffic, and then I came across a YouTube video on how to create a design in Canva and get it ultimately to an Etsy store. And I was like, that's it. That's like I'll create these designs. And so I found through this like 30-minute video the whole like beginning to end how to design in Canva, export it. You, I'll upload it to a company called Printify, and so Printify does all the fulfillment for me. I don't have to carry any inventory, and then ultimately like all my shirts and designs are like on the Etsy platform. Yeah, upload it to Printify, then it goes onto the Etsy platform, and then from there people can buy the shirts. And the Printify has different print providers in the U.S. and internationally that ultimately fulfill the product, get it boxed, printed, and shipped to the customer. So I don't have to carry any inventory. I just come up with a design. So you can have a design that you think is going to be awesome, and it may sell like nothing, and then you have a design that you think like, ah, it's okay, but then everyone loves that shirt. So one of my first designs was just said it has the term accountant on it, and then with an asterisk, and then it says I don't do taxes. So people sometimes just assume that like if you're an accountant, like oh yeah, they automatically do taxes. But like as you know, like that's just one small segment of the overlarge profession. Other ones I've made are like Life of the Party, which is pretty popular. One I like because I'm a Chiefs fan is like Travis Kelce a few years ago was like fight for your right to party. So I made FIFO your right to party. So I just make fun shirt designs like that. And ultimately, what I want to do, and what I've done with them, like I wear them to the gym to work out in, is I'm obviously proud to be like in the accounting profession. I enjoy my industry, but it's also a way to kind of like start a conversation. You never know if you're in a supermarket, at the gym, somebody like maybe there's a business owner that like wants to launch like a product, or they have a question about taxes or like financial forecasting. You're like, oh, you're in accounting, so like tell me more about like what you do. And so it could be a conversation starter, and you may have like a business lead just because you wore a t-shirt. So that's kind of like one of my plugs for the shirts as well.
I absolutely love that. I'm 100% going to be getting a Life of the Party shirt for this next semester at school. I just think walking into an accounting class with that shirt on would be the funniest thing ever, right? Maybe get an eye
Yes.
roll from a professor, or, maybe they even ask me, "Hey, where did you get that? I need to get one."
Yeah, and so with the shirts, I have the shirts, but I also have like onesies. So there's people that have purchased onesies for their maybe they have a baby themselves, or like they have a family member or a friend that's in the accounting, and so those have been kind of fun too. So like some of the same slogans, "Fight for your right to party." I even have one that says like "Rolling with my a crew," and so yeah, it's been fun having those as an option for people as well.
I need to get my wife some of those shirts cuz she gets so bored when I talk her ears off about accounting. It's so funny. So, let's get in a little bit more to maybe the accounting side again. You just started a new role at is Backbone CFO, correct?
Yes, correct.
So, what do you do there? And, I've had a few other fractional CFOs on the podcast, but maybe explain to my listeners again, what is a fractional CFO? Because it's one of those roles that's not even mentioned in school, right? They just talk about audit or tax, and then maybe further down the road, you can end up being a CFO at a industry company or whatever. But there's this whole new avenue of accounting that's completely opening up, right? This whole fractional CFO world. What do you do as a fractional CFO, and what's exciting about it? What do you enjoy about being a fractional CFO every day?
So, just quickly, so a fractional CFO is somebody that works like in the capacity of a chief financial officer for a company and helps them with strategic planning, forecasting, like basically taking like the accounting data and like what do we do with it, going like let's look 2 years out, 3 years out. So they'll use the accounting data, some of the sales backlogs, sales forecasts, and meld like the finance piece and accounting piece together, and like work with the owners. Like, hey, what's your goal for this next like year, 2 years out? Like, do you have a revenue target for your company and EBITDA target? And they'll kind of work with the client and build out models and things to do for the owners to do for their company, to be in a place like, okay, like 5 years out, you said you want to get to this revenue target. Here's what you need to do in terms of staffing and building out the company to beat those thresholds. And so for me, it's exciting. Kind of takes me back even to when I was a personal trainer. I get to work with multiple clients on a daily basis. So it's the same thing now as a fractional CFO. I get to interact with clients on their like we have like strategy calls and different things, and then even in between like the main like talks through like their financials, planning, that kind of thing. There's like some calls in between just to like check in, see how things are going. So it's exciting because I get to work with multiple people, help them achieve their goals, kind of see like um, even like if a company are in different industries, you can still see something like this company did that like, hey, even though they're in a different industry, this could apply to this company as well. And you kind of mention it to their owners, like, hey, this is something you might want to try. Maybe it'll help your firm, maybe it won't, but it's kind of cool. So you get to work with multiple clients and help them achieve their goals.
Well, and you're getting to do kind of the fun side of accounting, right? You get to do
Yes.
the forecasting and taking all the data that's been collected and all the hard work that's been put in to get those month end and year end financials, and then using those to bring value to your clients, right? Like that's the part of accounting that I feel like people struggle to understand. They just think of it as compliance, but there's this whole other side of actually bringing value to the client by using all that data we were required to collect anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's one thing too. Like when people talk about I think it's just going to make it even more dramatic where accountants will be freed up to do more of the planning, the forecasting. Even people that are like staff accountants, senior accountants, they're going to be freed up to like okay, there's the accounting data. A lot of this, they'll have to make sure that the AI tools did it accurately. So some people assume like AI is just going to take over everything. It's just a tool that's going to be utilized to make our accounting professionals more efficient. So you still have to verify the data. The then these models are only as good as the people that built them, so you have to validate them. But basically, yeah, it'll free up time to like review the data, and so the time spent like by a junior accountant, let's say, of like actually like keying in stuff, that's going to be done. And so they're going to be like, hey, they talk to their boss and their managers like, hey, I noticed this trend, that kind of thing. And so they'll be freed up to like offer more insights to their bosses. And then same thing with the people in the accounting manager, controllers, CFOs, FP&A people. They'll have data quicker as well. So it's not only going to make it like faster, get the results, but the data will be more real time. So it'll help decision makers instead of waiting like 15 months after the month end, or 15 days, I mean, after month end, you'll have some of the data like in real time, like, oh, okay, this is how we performed. Obviously, you need to do the reconciliations, but you have a more accurate picture of your performance much quicker with some of these AI tools.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and a question I have with that. So, doing all of the hard data entry and dirty work is essential to getting to the point you're at now. How do
Yes.
you feel like doing that stuff, has helped you be a good CFO?
Well, so basically, it's understanding like how the data gets there. So I think it's very important to know your debits and credits, T accounts, all that stuff. Like you may be going through school, like, oh, this is like why? Like the computer does this, but having that fundamental knowledge of like what is actually occurring is huge. So then, like, if you have, let's say you're looking through the financials and like, wait, this looks off. Like, why is this balance sheet account for like 6 months doing this, and then all of a sudden it jumps here, and then you could be like, oh, maybe there's an entry that got inverted, and so having that fundamental knowledge of debits and credits, the journal entries, make you like jump into the thing and fix the issue quickly. Whereas if you didn't have that knowledge of like kind of like that foundational knowledge of the T accounts and how everything's working behind the scenes, you go like, oh, I have no idea. And so it would take you much longer to get to the root cause. Whereas if you're a CFO and you're looking through the financials and reviewing stuff with the controllers or bookkeepers, it makes it so much easier to find things like they'll jump out easier and you may have an understanding and help them fix the issue quickly rather than you both like staring at the computer going like what happened.
Yeah, I love that. And so I just had this discussion with my boss a few days ago, and it was so funny because as young accountants, we like dread having to do this stuff, right? Like, so I have a few clients right now where we're like fixing their books, like their books have been messed up for several years, and we're getting them all put together and getting it, um, getting it in order the way it needs to be, and it's not fun. That part of the reconciliations and getting the month end closes done and all that stuff. It's not necessarily quote unquote fun, but it's essential to developing and becoming an accountant, right?
Yes.
Without it, there's just no way you could move on to bigger and better things.
And that's the thing too. So having that foundational knowledge is helpful because there's sometimes like as a fractional like CFO, let's say you're going through and you look at some of their books, like you have a question and you can see like if if they're trash, if their bookkeeping is not done well, you can't be an effective CFO if the bookkeeping is not done well. So if you have that fundamental knowledge, you could like say like, hey, talk to the bookkeeper or whoever, like, hey, these entries need to be done to fix everything. Otherwise, you can't be an effective CFO and forecast if you know the accounting data is not valid or there's things missing, that kind of thing. So that's another reason to have that fundamental knowledge. It helps you verify that, like, okay, this data is actually looks good, everything is clean. There's sometimes where, and I've come across this myself, where the bank is reconciled and the balance is zero, but then you have all these unclear transactions. And so you have expenses that are overstated and you're like, okay, what's going on? And then if you don't get it cleaned up, then you can reconcile the bank every month, but have all these unclear transactions just floating out there, clouding up the reporting and everything. So that's another reason why it's important to have that fundamental knowledge, because even if you don't do the bookkeeping yourself as a CFO, you could provide them like, hey, this is what steps we need to take to get this all cleaned up.
Yeah, that's awesome. So at Backbone, are you guys usually CFOs with supporting the accounting department at your client's business, or does Backbone CFO have their own bookkeepers and accountants that support you, and you guys kind of act as the accounting department for that client? Um, or both, maybe there's fractional CFOs that would do both, right?
Yes, so there's fractional CFOs that do both. For us as a company, the majority of our clients are ones where we just do the support as like the CFO. We'll give some insight and feedback to the accounting departments, and we'll work together. Like we're have a great relationship with them. Like they'll give us data, we'll give them feedback and different things. And if there's questions on transactions, coding, just making sure that like it's consistent, we'll get that verified. But as a company with Backbone, we're more focused on the strategic planning, forecasting, and just kind of leveraging the accounting data to look forward. And we don't actually compile it.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, and I want to dig into this a little bit of why businesses would hire a fractional CFO instead of a regular CFO, right? Like, it seems odd. Well, why would I just hire someone who has other clients and has other worries when I could just hire my own CFO to run with my whole accounting department? But it's opening up massive new avenues for not only for accountants but for businesses too. It gives them a lot more flexibility. So do you want to explain kind of why some of your clients have chosen to work with Backbone and work with a fractional CFO instead of just hiring their own?
Yeah, so what it ultimately boils down to is just the cost. So the market cost for a full-time CFO for a lot of these companies is just financially for them, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So these companies are, even if they're like in several $1 million of revenue, having that full-time labor cost of not only like the gross salary, but also like the benefits and everything, it just doesn't make sense to have that that financial burden on the company for somebody to be there 40 hours a week. They may only need like 5 to 10 hours a week, let's say, or maybe like if it, depending on the company, it could be like 5 hours for like 3 weeks and then 10 hours for the fourth week. But they just don't have the need for somebody to be there to support them on CFO type level work on a full-time basis. So we're able to do all the CFO level work with just like a few hours per week, and then at the month end or different times where we have the calls, we'll spend more time with the clients to work through everything. But that's the biggest thing is these companies, even the owners themselves, they'll pay themselves a salary, but reduce salary just because they're trying to grow the business, and they don't want to have like a financial burden for themselves. Obviously, they want to pay themselves something, but again, they're trying to be efficient with their resources, grow the revenue for the company, and don't need to have like the full-time CFO or the full-time salary for them as owners yet until they get to like a certain period. And then as these companies grow, it may make sense down the road to have a full-time CFO. But a lot of our clients are in that revenue threshold where they need guidance, but they just don't have the need for that full-time 40 hours a week person.
So for these medium to small size businesses, it really opens up their ability to get help from a CFO without having to, fork out the 150 to $300,000 that it costs to hire a regular CFO, right?
Yes. And it's the thing, like for them, they may do one acquisition every couple of years. And so like they'll have that CFO skill set like that's really needed for that particular thing. and then they'll have the acquisition, everything will be good. So like some of the larger companies, like CFOs are doing multiple things. They're working on making sure like you're good with the loan covenants and multiple things. Whereas some of these companies, just having that reviewed on a like every quarterly basis, that will be good enough for them. They don't need somebody there full time because they're not as complex and needing for the the line of credit or different things like that. So the fractional CFO can help them with all of that without needing to be on their payroll at $200,000, $300,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And having the CMA instead of the CPA, I'm sure greatly benefits you in being a CFO because that's all you're doing, right? You're not doing any of the tax or really regulatory stuff. It's all about finding value for your client and then helping them make business decisions. Is that correct?
That's so true. So for me, like I had debated between the CPA and CMA, and after work, I worked in public accounting, started getting some roles in industry, and I decided like that would be awesome, but I feel like the CMA is more beneficial for where I'm at now. And then now that I'm in the fractional CFO space, like the CMA skill set and what it tests on is exactly what I do on a daily basis. So it's the planning and forecasting. It's like true management accounting. So there's like the accounting aspect, reviewing all the financials, just kind of checking off on the compliance, making sure that's being handled. But it's all the forward-looking things, using like the balanced scorecard, making sure that they're hitting their key performance indicators, making sure that the KPIs are useful. Like let's make sure that we're hitting ones that benefit the company, kind of tie them to the industry so we can compare how they're doing. But yeah, for me, the CMA and the founder of Backbone CFO also has his CMA, and we've even discussed that together. Like it's something that with that credential, if you're in the fractional space, you use it on a daily basis.
So for students who, are thinking of that route or that route really interests them, what advice do you have for them? Because overall in school, it still kind of feels like CPA or bust, right?
Yeah.
um Even EAs. So I have quite a few friends who are EAs now, and technically speaking, they're a little bit better at tax than a lot of CPAs are. They have more
Yes.
expertise on it, but the EA is almost looked down upon, or that it's not as difficult as the CPA. And the CMA gets the same rap, right? You see a lot of people that get the CPA first and then, okay, now I'll get what I really want to do, the CMA, and I'll go do that. But they feel like they have to check the CPA box first. For those who want to go the CMA route, do you have any tips or any ideas for them that would be useful? Maybe are there any courses, or
Oh yeah.
even what master's degree would be best for them to get to be best prepared to get the CMA and eventually work down the road to either be a CFO or a virtual CFO?
No, that's an awesome question. So with the CMA program, and there's already some universities that have like a connection through the IMA, like they have coursework that are more geared towards the CMA. But if I had it to do over again, and if I was just going through like as accounting from the get-go, I would do both the CPA and CMA. With the CMA, it's one thing you can take while you're still in school. So obviously, like you're going through all these classes, that knowledge is fresh in your brain. You're taking your finance classes, your accounting courses. You can take the exam while you're still in school. Then you still have to fulfill like the work requirement. So you could like pass the CMA exams and then get into the workforce. And then after a couple of years of like the work experience requirements, then you become a fully fledged CMA. But you can take all that stuff. That's what I would do. And I think on the IMA website, it's the Institute of Management Accountants, imanet.org. You can see like how it's laid out, like how you could get your CMA while you're still in school, and then you could also go, and then after graduation, you could do your Master's of Accountancy if you want to get what you need, and then also do the CPA. So my thing is, if you're going to get your CPA, you could also have your CMA, and then if you have both and you're working at a public accounting firm, that just makes you that much more marketable. Be like, if there's a firm with a small firm with 30 CPAs, and there's like the 31st person has their CPA and CMA, that just makes you more marketable to when you're doing job interviews, but also to clients as well. Like, yes, this is Jeff. He has a CPA, but he also has a CMA. So then you can jump in there, leverage your CMA knowledge and expertise, but also kind of bring in the CMA aspect and be like, oh, okay. So you can help them with compliance piece, but also help them with the planning and forecasting and all that kind of stuff as well.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's so important to get these alternative paths out there to students because it's just going to get them more excited and more involved in the profession than we would have before, right? Like it's been so hard for me as a student just hearing, "Oh, tax or audit, what's your choice?" Like, no. There's so many other choices than just tax or audit. Like maybe you need to do a few years in one of those to be ready to move to a different role. But just
Yeah.
telling students blankly in the beginning that they have to choose tax or audit, I don't think that's fair to the students, and I think it puts kind of a bad brand on the profession, right? It's like the joke you made earlier about, oh, you're a CPA, so you do tax. Like
Yeah.
there's so many accountants that have nothing to do with tax.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing too. When I was in college, I looked at different majors and whatnot, and I wouldn't have even really looked at accounting because I just thought like same kind of thing there, even not even being in the accounting department, just like seeing like the textbooks and stuff like, oh, that's like taxes and I don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, so it's showcasing that yes, those are awesome paths. Like you can crush it in audit, you can crush it in tax, but there's so much more to that. Like show like, hey, yeah, if you want to work in public accounting for a couple of years, but then you could also go into industry and do these roles and like get some skill set built up here. And so yeah, it's just showing them that there's more than just the audit and tax piece, and basically how you can grow and get to those financial planning and analysis roles, like CFO roles, and not have to be just like the goal is to make partner at a firm. You could be like, oh yeah, I'm going to leverage that couple years of this firm. I'm going to network, meet a ton of awesome people, and then I'm going to jump to industry and bring my skill set over there.
So with jumping an industry and choosing an industry job, do you have any recommendations for students on how they should choose, what type of a business they should go be a staff accountant at, or how they can even work their way in from a public accounting role to industry?
Yeah, so for me, like kind of what we talked about through our discussion, is just being active on LinkedIn and different places. You can start to meet people on there, and maybe as you're reading through things, or let's say you're working in your accounting firm and you do like a couple audits, and like this company or this industry looks really interesting. Then you could talk to people that like maybe alumni of your firm or your college, or just on LinkedIn, and start to get to connect with people that are like working for that company or in that industry. Like, hey, what do you know of any jobs available, or maybe even an internship? And so you could start getting just leveraging like your network to find jobs at these firms and get your foot in the door to work as whatever accounting role or finance role they need, and just continue to grow from there.
I love it. It's We live in a day that it's so easy to connect and make friends with people because of LinkedIn and because of all of the platforms we have, and we all really need to take advantage of that and really leverage it to be able to land the potential roles that we want, right?
Yeah, and also if you approach it when you talk to these people, like, or you message them on LinkedIn, if you approach it and like, hey, I'm just asking for advice, most of the people on the platform that I found will be very helpful as long as you're not trying to like, hey, I need a job. But if you approach it like, hey, what advice would you give for somebody that wants to move into this space? That's going to help you more long term anyway. It's so you're trying to build a relationship with these people, and then it's more of a two-way street versus just like, hey, I need a job. Do you know of anything? Like that doesn't build value. You want to be like, hey, um, even if you are just starting out in your career, you may not have a ton of things you can offer to this person that's worked in the industry for 20 years, but maybe you just be like, hey, I just want your advice. And so for them, that's helpful for them because they get to instill their knowledge, help somebody else grow in their career. So make it networking a two-way street and just seek advice and guidance. I feel like 99% of the people on LinkedIn will be like, oh yeah, like they'll offer even like a couple things to do. Maybe that relationship will continue to build, or they'll just give you some useful things and just go from there, like useful people to connect with, or tools, or websites to go check out.
You have to add value first and seek to
Yes.
build a relationship first. Otherwise, it does not work. I
Yeah, exactly.
Students hit me up in the DMs all the time, and they're like, "Oh, can you help me land an accounting role?" I can't really help you land an accounting role, but I can tell you to go build relationships with people, and that will help you, right? Like
Yes.
that's always my recommendation is they're like, "Oh, I need a job in the next 6 weeks. Like my summer's running out. I need an internship." Well, you should have started networking 6 months ago if you needed an internship right now, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of that when was the best time to plant a tree last year, the next best time is right now.
And that's another thing I wanted to touch on too. So, like with the IMA, for instance, and I don't know, maybe the AICPA has something similar, but they offer student memberships, and it's a very cheap way to um, get into like the network of everyone in the IMA group itself. But from there, you can take part of these webinars, and even if you're not like if you're still in college, having these webinars and like, hey, what's an accounting software that people are using? You can pick up things from that, and then you can go to some of these. Like for instance, I live in Tulsa. We have our IMA conference every year, and so even as a student, you could go to that. It's a discounted price for students, and you can meet people that are like working for like Fortune 500 companies. Maybe they work at a firm that just has like 50 people on staff. But you're like, and also there's not from what I've experienced, there's not a ton of people that are at these conferences that are still in school. So that just gives you a leg up on other people that your peer group. If you're showing up as a student to these conferences, you're going to meet people and be like, oh, yeah, I remember I met this person last year at the conference. Yeah, let's talk to them and bring them in for an interview. So it's just again a chance to meet cool people in your industry while you're still in school. And then also you'll meet these people, but then you'll have these like presentations that people are taking for continuing education, and that just builds your knowledge as well.
Yep. I think I've taken a ton of CPE courses already, and I can't even count it towards anything because I don't have the
Yes.
CPA.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's been such a good learning experience. Yeah. So I have two more quick questions for you, and I'm totally spacing on the one that I just had for you. Um, oh yes. So in one of my financial accounting classes, we covered a little bit of oil and gas accounting because it's very different from other types of accounting. Could you dig in a little bit to what oil and gas accounting was like when you did that?
Yeah. So I was there. I wasn't there at the company very long, and it was a midstream company. So most of the accounting was like project accounting based. So it's almost comparable to other industries and whatnot. So I know other people that work like the more like the drilling aspect, but it was more like midstream projects. So there was nothing complex oil and gas accounting. It was just like monitoring revenue and costs on each specific project and stuff like that.
Um, and then, so last question for you is you're a personal trainer. I've seen your videos. You obviously still work out all the time. What are your tips for busy professionals and busy students to still keep a focus on personal fitness and taking care of yourself, even when life is just so busy and so crazy?
Yeah, so for me, I get up early in the mornings. I have since I was a trainer. So even if it's just like an extra like 15, 20 minutes earlier than you normally would to get a quick workout in, if you're like house, apartment, depending on like what time of year it is, if you want to do like some cardio outdoors. But it's so helpful for you to even do like any type of thing, even if it's like 15, 20 minutes of like some weight training or something where you're just being active. Even if like you're at the office one day and like you just take like a quick 5 minute walk, increase your blood flow, go back to your desk, you'll have some clarity for more tasks and stuff. So it's helpful to do whatever you can, even just like when you're studying, even like a 5 to 10 minute study session is going to benefit you in the long run. So even if you're just doing a quick 5, 10 minute workout one day and then the next day you do like a longer workout, it'll all benefit you in the long run.
I love it. Such a great tip. And thank you so much, Lucas, for joining me today and for your time. It's been so special to have you on. I love your content, love what you're doing for the profession, and um, really grateful that you're pushing the fun side and the memes and the videos and all of that stuff that just shows that accounting is so much more than just data entry. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Of course. I will drop the links to all of your channels and especially your Etsy page so everybody can go get some cool merch down below. Um, but thank you again. And where's the best place for people to find you? Are you most responsive on LinkedIn? Should people hit you up in the comments on your TikTok videos? Like where's the best place to find you?
Oh, so the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. But if you want to help help me with the algorithm, you can reach me on TikTok as well. But for me, I would say that LinkedIn is the best platform to reach me. And people that message me, I try my best to get back to them relatively quickly, especially if they're asking for advice and different things. So yeah, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lucas. And the rest of everyone, we will see you next week.